The scorching Iraqi desert wind whipped through forward operating base Eagle Nest, carrying the acrid stench of diesel fuel and raw desperation. Inside the makeshift command center, a converted shipping container reeking of sweat gun oil and the unrelenting heat, Colonel Marcus Hale stood rigid before his elite Delta Force operators. Their latest reconnaissance mission had spiraled into catastrophe. 3 of his finest men, Sergeant Ryan Cole, Staff Sergeant Luke Harlan, and Sergeant Mike Donovan, were pinned down behind enemy lines in a fortified compound 20 kilometers northeast. Donovan had taken shrapnel to the abdomen during a botched extraction, and without immediate air support, he wouldn't last the night. Hostile insurgents, professional and ruthless, were closing in, their numbers swelling with each passing minute. Hale's weathered face, etched with 2 decades of leading warriors through the fires of hell, betrayed the gravity of the moment. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting stark shadows on the hardened faces around him. Maps cluttered the table. Radios crackled with static, and empty coffee cups stood like silent sentinels to their exhaustion. "Listen up." Hale's command voice cut through the tension like a blade. "Our brothers are out there bleeding out, surrounded. Every chopper in theater is grounded or committed. We need a miracle. Any Black Hawk pilots here?" The room fell into a suffocating silence. 20 pairs of eyes shifted, hopeful yet resigned. These were America's toughest men who'd stared down death in Iraq's unforgiving sands, but piloting a UH-60 Black Hawk under fire demanded skills none claimed. The question hung heavy unanswered until from the shadowed corner, Captain Elizabeth Kane slowly rose to her feet. The quiet communications specialist, her firm body tensed under the flight suit, full bust and slim waist hidden beneath the fabric, a testament to years of rigorous training, met Hale's gaze with decisive blue eyes that flashed like steel. Her long brown hair was tied neatly, but a glimpse of her eagle tattoo peeked from her collar, a black silhouette that seemed to stir with hidden fire. Who was this woman? How could a rear echelon specialist relegated to radios and reports dare step into the inferno? What mysterious past made her hands tremble ever so slightly, yet propel her to stand when others faltered? The radio crackled faintly, a dying teammate's whisper, evoking the ghosts of family losses, the kind that lingered in the hearts of those who'd served through wars long past. In that moment, the air thickened with possibility and peril, drawing every soul into the unfolding drama. Forward operating base. Eagle Nest squatted like a defiant outpost in the vast Iraqi desert, a labyrinth of shipping containers and sandbagged walls humming with the constant drone of generators and distant patrols. The sun baked the earth mercilessly during the day, turning the air into a shimmering haze, while nights brought a biting chill that seeped into the bones. The smells were inescapable sweat-soaked uniforms, the metallic tang of gun oil, and the ever-present dust that coated everything in a fine, gritty layer. It was a world of routine vigilance, where soldiers like Captain Elizabeth Kane navigated the grind of deployment with quiet resolve. Kane sat in her corner of the command center, her workstation a cluttered desk of radios and monitors flickering with encrypted signals. At 32, she cut a striking figure, even in her utilitarian uniform, smooth white skin marked by a small scar on her cheek from a long-ago shrapnel graze, angular features that spoke of quiet determination, and sharp blue eyes that missed nothing. Her long brown hair was bound in a regulation ponytail, practical and unassuming, while her body full bust, slim waist, and long legs honed from relentless physical training, moved with the grace of someone who'd once commanded the skies. But here she was, just the communications specialist, the one who monitored frequencies, decoded chatter, and ensured the flow of information that kept the base alive. It was a role she'd requested after her last tour, a step back from the adrenaline-fueled chaos of piloting, where the stakes were life and death in the cockpit. Her days blurred into a monotonous rhythm, logging enemy transmissions, coordinating with higher command, and enduring the subtle and sometimes not-so-subtle barbs from her male counterparts. "Hey, Kane, stick to the radios, sweetheart," Master Sergeant Ramon Ortiz would quip during briefings, his massive frame leaning against the wall as he flashed a grin that masked deeper prejudices. "Women like you are great at paperwork, but combat flying, that's a man's game. Leave the real work to us." The words stung, echoing the systemic biases she'd faced throughout her career, the whispers that a female pilot was a liability, the promotions passed over the assignments funneled to safer roles. It wasn't overt hostility, but a grinding undercurrent that wore at her spirit, reminding her daily that in this man's army, she was forever proving herself. Yet beneath her tram-lang exterior lay a depth of strength forged in fire. In quiet moments, when the base fell into an uneasy hush, Kane's mind wandered to flashbacks of her brother, Captain James. Kane, her hero, her mentor. Like those old days when parents told war stories around the dinner table, James had regaled her with tales of his flights over hostile skies, his voice full of pride. "You're the eagle, Liz," he'd say, his blue eyes mirror images of hers, sparkling as he taught her the basics of aviation on weekend trips to the airfield. But the memory twisted into pain that fateful mission 3 years ago, where his Black Hawk had been hit by enemy fire. In the chaos, James had shoved her toward the controls, shouting, "Fly away, you're the eagle," as he covered their escape. He hadn't made it. The loss had shattered her, leaving her feeling abandoned, not just by fate, but by a system that questioned her grief as weakness, pushing her to the sidelines, because women get too emotional. She trained alone in the base gym at dawn, her firm body full bust, rising and falling with each push-up slim waist, twisting through core drills, symbolizing a resilience she clung to like a lifeline. Military discipline was her blade, forging her soul to overcome the loss, but it couldn't erase the sad shadows in her blue eyes. She poured herself into her work, finding solace in the static hum of radios, where voices from the field reminded her of the brothers in arms she still served. Yet the prejudices lingered, a constant reminder that her wings had been clipped not by enemy fire, but by the very team she protected. The escalating knot came without warning. A routine intelligence op had gone sideways. Cole, Harlan, and Donovan ambushed in an enemy compound, their radio distress calls crackling through the speakers like desperate pleas. "Eagle Nest, this is Harlan. We're pinned down. Donovan's hit bad. Need evac now." The words pierced Kane's heart, evoking the ghost of her brother's final transmission. As the command center buzzed with urgency, she felt the pull, the call to action stirring something long buried. But could she answer? Or would the wounds of the past hold her back? The command center erupted into controlled chaos as the radio distress calls pierced the air like knives. Colonel Hale slammed his fist on the map table, his jaw tightened with the weight of impossible decisions. "Harlan's team is holed up in that enemy compound 20 kilometers northeast, surrounded by at least 24 insurgents. Cole's holding the perimeter. Harlan's coordinating fire. But Donovan took shrapnel straight to the gut during the ambush. He's bleeding out fast, no medevac in sight. Every bird in the sector is either down for maintenance tied up in other ops, or too far to make it in time. Without air support, we're looking at a ground assault that's suicide. More families getting that knock on the door." The operators exchanged grim glances, their faces pale under the grime of recent patrols. Master Sergeant Ortiz leaned forward, his massive frame tense, blood from a fresh head wound dried across his temple. Sir, closest Apache is 3 hours out. Marines are committed elsewhere. We've pulled every string Joint Ops Higher Command. Negative on assets. The static from the radio mocked them. Harlan's voice crackling through again. Eagle Nest, this is Harlan. Donovan's fading pressure's dropping. We can hold maybe an hour, but tell his wife he loves her. The words hung heavy, evoking the ghosts of losses, past the kind that haunted veterans long after the battles ended. Hale straightened his eyes, sweeping the room like a commander who'd pulled miracles from the jaws of defeat before. These weren't green recruits. They were Delta's best men who'd stormed strongholds and extracted hostages under withering fire. But tonight, the mathematics of survival were unforgiving, outgunned, outnumbered, and out of options. We don't leave our own, Hale growled, his voice steady despite the storm within. I need ideas, but think outside the regs. Pilots, mechanics, analysts, someone here has rotary wing experience. Anyone who can get that old UH-60 airborne and into the hot zone. Silence blanketed the room once more, thicker than the desert dust outside. Eyes darted shoulders, shrugged in resignation. No one stepped forward until Elizabeth Kane did. From her corner by the communications console, she rose slowly, her heart pounding like rotor blades in her chest. The team turned, surprise etching their features. Ortiz's eyes narrowed. Kane, your comms support. What the hell? But she met Hale's gaze unflinchingly, her sharp blue eyes flashing with a fire long banked. Sir, I flew Blackhawks for 10 years, 2 tours in Iraq, 3 in Afghanistan. Over 500 combat hours, medevacs under fire, special ops insertions, extractions from hellholes just like this. Call sign Raven. A murmur rippled through the group. Hale leaned in, measuring her. Captain, your file says communications. No aviation quals listed. Kane rolled up her sleeve slightly as she spoke, revealing the edge of her black eagle tattoo, a symbol of freedom and fury, its wings seeming to unfurl in the dim light. My file says what the Army wanted after my last deployment, sir. But I can describe every extraction tactic, low-level ingress, to evade radar-hot LZ protocols, manual reversion if hydraulics fail. I've pulled teams out when no one else could. The room buzzed with curiosity. Who was this quiet woman with the hidden past? Why had she buried her skills? But it was the radio that sealed it. Donovan's weak, gurgling voice filtering through. Liz, if you're hearing, tell my kids. The name wasn't hers, but it echoed her brother's final words, stirring a storm of emotion. Fear clawed at her, the ghosts of loss, whispering retreat, yet the pull of duty of saving these men like James would have forced her forward. In that heartbeat, the call wasn't just a mission. It was redemption, demanding she engage, despite the terror gripping her soul. The revelation hung in the air like smoke from a battlefield, thick and choking. Colonel Hale's eyes narrowed, appraising Kane with the intensity reserved for enemy positions, while the room stirred with a mix of skepticism and desperate hope. Master Sergeant Ortiz pushed off the wall, his blood-streaked face twisting into a scoff. Women flying combat! You'll kill us all! Kane, stick to your radios, that's where you belong. We've seen enough screw-ups from desk jockeys thinking they're heroes. His words landed like grenades, igniting murmurs of agreement from some operators, their prejudices bubbling to the surface in the heat of the moment. Lieutenant Palmer, young and pale beneath the grime, shook his head. With respect, ma'am, our lives are on the line. You sure you're not just overreaching? The indignation burned in Kane's chest, a familiar fire that had scorched her through years of being sidelined, her skills dismissed because of her gender. It was the same old story, the system that praised her brother's valor, but questioned her resolve, as if her wings were clipped by birthright. Inside Kane's pulse quickened with old fears, her sharp blue eyes misting as the ghosts rushed in. He died for me, James. My rock gone in a blaze of rotor blades and enemy fire. Fly away, you're the eagle, he shouted, shoving me to safety while he covered the retreat. How could I risk it again? I'm not worthy. I'll fail them like I failed him. Her hand instinctively clutched the small medal tucked under her uniform, James's distinguished flying cross, its cool metal, a talisman against the storm within. The memories flooded her, their childhood flights, his laughter echoing over the airfield, the pride in his voice when he said she'd outfly him one day. But that day never came. Instead, grief had grounded her, pushing her into the shadows of communications work, where the risks were paperwork, not lives. What if I freeze? What if my hands shake on the controls and Donovan pays the price? No, I can't better to let the men handle it like they always say. She nearly sat back down, the weight of doubt pressing her into retreat. Her firm body honed by solitary training, trembling ever so slightly under the flight suit. But then the radio crackled again. Donovan's voice, a ragged whisper through the static. Eagle Nest. Save us. For my kids. The plea pierced her like shrapnel, evoking James's final transmission, the brotherly love that had sacrificed everything. It touched the core of her compassion, stirring the unyielding spirit she'd buried. These men weren't just soldiers. They were fathers, brothers, sons like James had been. The frustration boiled over, not just at the prejudices boxing her in, but at her own hesitation. No more hiding, she thought, her blue eyes clearing as resolve hardened her features. I'll fly, she declared, her voice steady despite the inner turmoil. In that moment, the refusal crumbled, giving way to the call that would redefine her. The command center seemed to hold its breath as Kane's declaration echoed a quiet thunder that shifted the room's gravity. Colonel Hale nodded slowly, his stern face softening with a flicker of respect, but the skepticism lingered like desert dust. Ortiz crossed his arms, his gruff voice laced with reluctance. Fine if you're volunteering for this suicide run, but don't expect me to babysit you up there. Hale silenced him with a sharp glance. Enough. Kane, if you're serious, we need to vet this now. The operators dispersed into hurried preparations, but Kane felt the weight of their doubts pressing down her resolve, wavering like a flame in the wind. She stepped aside, her hand, still clutching James's medal, seeking a moment to steady herself. That's when Major Elena Vargas approached, her silver hair catching the fluorescent light like a crown of wisdom earned through decades of service. At 60, Vargas was the base's medical officer, her kind brown eyes holding the compassion of someone who'd patched up more broken bodies and spirits than she could count. Her uniform bore the subtle patches of a veteran, and her presence carried the quiet authority of those who'd served in eras when women in uniform were rarities. Captain Kane, she said softly, her voice warm like a grandmother's embrace. Walk with me. They moved to a quieter alcove, away from the bustle, where Vargas placed a gentle hand on Kane's arm. I've been watching you since you arrived. Quiet, but with a fire that reminds me of someone I knew well. Kane's blue eyes met Vargas's curiosity piercing through her turmoil. Mom. Vargas smiled faintly, her expression evoking the old stories of resilience that seniors cherished, the tales of family fortitude passed down through generations. Your mother, Elizabeth, she was a WASP pilot in World War II, ferrying bombers across the Atlantic when most women were told to stay home. I met her once at a veterans gathering. She used to say, "Women are eagles, flying through storms that would ground lesser birds." She flew through prejudice, loss, and doubt, just like you're facing now. The word stirred something deep in Kane, a connection to her lineage that she'd almost forgotten amid the grief. Flashbacks flooded her her mother silver-haired in her later years, sitting by the fire recounting those daring flights. "The men laughed at us," her mother had said, "but we proved them wrong. You have that blood, Liz, don't let them clip your wings." Vargas's trust was unwavering, a beacon in the storm. Hale joined them, his support evident in his nod. "Kane's quals check out from what I can pull. She's got the hours. Ortiz, you're riding shotgun. We need eyes on the door gun." Ortiz grumbled, but complied, his reluctance a grudging acknowledgement. Then came the fresh twist that caught Kane off guard. Vargas reached into her pocket and pulled out a faded envelope yellowed with time. "I didn't just know your mother. I flew with your brother James on his first tour. He was my co-pilot once before. Well, you know, he gave me this letter for safekeeping. Said if anything happened, deliver it to you. Tell Liz she's stronger than she thinks," he wrote. "She's the eagle of our family." Kane's fingers trembled as she took the letter, her sharp blue eyes misting once more. Unfolding it, she read James's familiar scrawl. "Liz, if you're reading this, remember, courage isn't the absence of fear, it's flying anyway. You're stronger than you think. Soar for us both." The words pierced her heart, evoking the compassion of sibling bonds that transcended loss, the kind that resonated with those who'd lost loved ones in service. As tears welled, Kane's hand instinctively reached back, touching the Black Eagle tattoo on her shoulder blade, its wings once feeling broken, now stirring with an initial spark of rebirth. Vargas squeezed her arm. "Your family flew through worse. Now go show them what an eagle can do." With Hale's backing and Ortiz's wary alliance, Kane felt the first glimmers of support, solidifying her path forward, the mentor's wisdom bridging her past to the perilous flight ahead. With Vargas's words echoing in her soul like a rallying cry from generations past, Kane strode toward the flight line, the faded letter from James tucked close to her heart. The base thrummed with urgency under the dim floodlights, mechanics swarming the battered UH-60 Black Hawk like bees around a hive. Chief Warrant Officer Glenn Ramirez, grease-stained and grizzled, wiped his brow as he met her approach. "Captain, this bird's seen better days. Hydraulics, leaking like a sieve port engine, running rough from sand ingestion. Fuel systems patched, but under stress it could give out. You sure about this?" Kane's sharp blue eyes scanned the helicopter, her firm body tensing under the flight suit, full bust rising with a deep breath, slim waist twisting as she knelt to inspect the underbelly. Her long brown hair, still tied neatly, caught the breeze, but her focus was laser sharp. "Run me through the diagnostics, Chief. I'll make her fly." Ramirez nodded, respect dawning in his eyes as they circled the aircraft. Hydraulic fluid dripped steadily from cracked lines, staining the sand below, while the engine housings bore the scars of relentless desert wear. Faded green paint, chipped and faded. Kane's hands moved with practiced efficiency, checking rotor blades for stress fractures, testing access panels, and verifying the cyclic and collective controls. "Primary systems marginal," she murmured, her voice steady despite the knot in her stomach. "Backup's offline. We'll be muscle flying if it fails completely." Ramirez whistled low. "That's raw strength on the sticks, no power assist. Flight controls'll fight you every inch." But Kane absorbed the warnings, like a veteran absorbing intel, her mind already calculating contingencies. This wasn't just machinery. It was an extension of her will, a vessel to honor James's legacies and prove the doubters wrong. Ortiz joined her, slinging extra ammo and medical supplies into the cabin, his reluctance softening into pragmatic alliance. "If we're doing this, ma'am, let's make it count." Door guns loaded 300 rounds of 7.62. Hale appeared at the pilot's door, his weathered face a mask of command. "Kane, you're cleared. Bring them home. Godspeed." As she climbed into the cockpit, the familiar scent of avionics and leather enveloped her, stirring a short flashback. James at the controls of their family's old Cessna, his laughter ringing out over the open fields. Collective for lift, cyclic for direction. Feel the bird. Liz. She's alive under your hands. The memory fueled her, pushing back the fear as she initiated startup. The starboard engine whined to life, first a steady roar, building as rotor blades thrummed overhead, slicing the night air. Then the port engine coughed, sputtering before settling into an uneven rhythm that vibrated through the frame. Kane gripped the collective pitch, feeling the aircraft's reluctance, the leaking hydraulics making every input a battle. "Systems check," she called over the intercom, her voice calm amid the rising din. Ortiz responded from the crew compartment. "Lima Charlie, ma'am, loud and clear." With a final glance at the base silhouettes of her team, watching like sentinels, she pulled collective, coaxing the Black Hawk upward. The skids lifted reluctantly, the machine groaning under its own weight and mechanical woes, but it rose, clawing into the Iraqi night. Flying low to avoid enemy radar, skimming the desert floor at barely 50 feet, Kane navigated by starlight and instrument glow, the hot wind buffeting the fuselage like an old adversary. Sand swirled in their wake, a gritty veil over the rocky terrain below. Adjusting collective for low-level ingress, she explained to Ortiz, educating even in the moment, her tone evoking the quiet wisdom of those who'd mentored her. "It controls rotor pitch. For lift too much, we climb into detection. Too little, we kiss the ground." The technical details grounded her a discipline against the chaos. But then came the mini-climax. A sudden gust slammed them, the damaged hydraulics causing the controls to buck wildly. Alarms blared, the cyclic lagging in her grip. Kane's muscles strained her slim waist, twisting long legs braced against the pedals as she wrestled the bird steady. "Shake it off," she muttered, stabilizing with raw strength and instinct. Ortiz gripped his seat. "Damn, ma'am, that was close." But Kane's blue eyes flashed with determination. The first test passed her initial rebirth, igniting fully. They were in the fight now, hurtling toward the inferno, the eagle's wings unfurling at last. The Black Hawk hurtled through the Iraqi night, its rotors slicing the air with a relentless thrum that vibrated through Kane's bones. Low and fast, they skimmed the desert floor shadows, racing below like ghosts in the moonlight. Ortiz shifted in the crew compartment behind her, his presence a heavy reminder of the doubts she'd just silenced, or so she thought. "You really think you can pull this off, ma'am?" he grumbled over the intercom, his voice gruff with lingering prejudice. "I've seen plenty of hotshots crash and burn literally. And forgive me, but a woman behind the stick in a hot LZ. You think women can't handle this? It's not desk work. It's life and death." The words stung, echoing the barbs she'd endured for years, the dismissive glances, the sweetheart comments that belittled her every achievement. Kane's grip tightened on the cyclic, her firm body. Slim waist braced, long legs steady against the pedals, absorbing the aircraft's subtle protests. "He's testing me just like the others." She thought, frustration boiling beneath her calm exterior. "Sergeant, focus on the gun. We've got a job to do." The tension thickened as they flew on Ortiz, pressing his point with reluctant jabs. "Back in my first tour, we had a female medic try to play hero, nearly got the whole squad wiped. No offense, but facts are facts." Kane's blue eyes narrowed, the eagle tattoo on her back, seeming to itch with suppressed fury. She could feel the old wounds reopening the system that had pushed her aside after James's death, labeling her too emotional, while praising male pilots for the same grit. "Offense taken, Ortiz, but save your stories. We're in this together now." The argument simmered an internal storm, mirroring the desert winds outside, until the mini-climax struck without warning. A violent gust slammed the chopper sideways, the leaking hydraulics, causing the controls to seize. Alarms blared in the cockpit, the cyclic bucking like a wild stallion. "Hold on!" Kane shouted, her muscles straining full bust, heaving with effort as she applied raw discipline, adjusting collective pitch and pedals with precise, forceful inputs. Years of training kicked in. Breathe steady, anticipate the lag muscle through the resistance. The bird shuddered, dipping perilously close to the sand, but she wrestled it level, stabilizing with a calm that belied the chaos. Ortiz's voice came through quieter now. "Damn, that was smooth, ma'am. Maybe I spoke too soon." In that moment, respect flickered a small victory over prejudice, forging an uneasy alliance as they pressed deeper into the night. Miles blurred beneath them, the low-level flight a nerve-wracking ballet of evasion when the first real enemies materialized. Kane's instruments pinged a warning thermal signatures ahead, clustered like vipers in the dunes. "Contacts 2 o'clock insurgent patrol," she announced, her voice taut with military precision. Ortiz leaned into his door gun, scanning the darkness. "I see 'em pickup trucks mounted weapons. They're vectoring toward us." The desert erupted in tracer fire, green streaks lancing through the night like deadly fireworks. An RPG whooshed past its rocket motor, trailing orange flame, detonating harmlessly, but shaking the airframe. Kane banked hard, left her sharp blue eyes calculating escape vectors. "Evasive maneuvers hold tight." She dove the chopper into a wadi, using the dry riverbed. For cover, the leaking hydraulics protesting every twist. "Education time. Sergeant, low altitude, nap of the earth flying dodges radar and ground fire. Cyclic for direction, collective for height. Feel the terrain, not fight it." Ortiz fired controlled bursts, brass casings clattering to the floor. "They're pros, not locals. Wait. Radio chatter sounds like Russian accents directing them." The twist hit like a sandstorm. Amid the enemy transmissions, clipped voices in Russian filtered through Kane's headset, coordinating the ambush with chilling efficiency. Russian advisors, she thought, diverting her focus, the audience's assumption of mere local insurgents, shattered by this international intrigue. Was it tied to her past, to James's ill-fated mission, rumored to involve foreign operatives? The mystery deepened, adrenaline surging as another RPG streaked by, forcing a desperate roll. Kane's evasion tactics shone zigzagging at treetop level, using dunes as shields, educating through action the art of survival in hostile skies. "They're turning back," we shook 'em. Ortiz grunted, a note of admiration creeping in. But the Russian voices lingered, a shadowy thread, weaving uncertainty into their journey, escalating the stakes as they neared the compound. Pressing on the radio crackled with a familiar voice. Staff Sergeant Harlan, once a vocal skeptic of Kane's abilities, now pleading from the trapped compound. "Eagle Nest. This is Harlan, enemy probing our perimeter. Donovan's barely holding on. If you're out there, we need you now." The desperation in his tone touched Kane's heart, evoking the compassion of battlefield brotherhood, the kind that bound soldiers across divides. Ortiz relayed. "Raven inbound, ETA 8 mics. Hang tight." Harlan's response came ragged. "Raven Kane, I was wrong about you, ma'am. Back at base, I said you didn't have what it takes. But if anyone's pulling us out of this hell, it's you." The admission hit like a balm on old wounds, Kane's blue eyes misting as she gripped the controls tighter. He sees me now, not as a woman, but as a warrior. The emotional shift escalated the pace, forging new allies in the crucible of crisis. "Copy that, Harlan. We're coming for all of you." Ortiz nodded silently, his earlier prejudices yielding to shared purpose. The compound loomed on the horizon, enemy fire intensifying, but with allies rallied and mysteries unfolding, Kane felt the eagle within, stirring stronger, ready for the trials ahead. The Black Hawk pressed onward, a wounded beast slicing through the Iraqi night, its rotors a steady heartbeat against the escalating drum of danger. Kane's hands gripped the controls with unyielding focus, her sharp blue eyes scanning the horizon where the enemy compound loomed like a fortress of shadows. The valley ahead, a narrow gauntlet of rocky ridges and dried wadis, promised cover but hid perils in its folds. Approaching objective, she announced over the intercom, her voice calm yet edged with the tension coiling in her gut. Ortiz, now a reluctant but steadfast ally, manned the door gun, his earlier doubts silenced by the shared trials behind them. Eyes open, ma'am. Drone intel shows heavy defenses, interlocking fire zones, RPG nests on the high ground. The wind howled outside, hot and gritty, carrying the faint echo of distant gunfire that grew louder with each kilometer. Kane dropped the chopper lower, hugging the terrain to mask their approach, the desert floor blurring beneath them in a rush of sand and stone. Sweat beaded on her forehead, trickling down her smooth white skin, despite the cool night air seeping through bullet-riddled vents. Her firm body tensed under the flight suit, full bust, rising with each controlled breath, slim waist twisting as she adjusted the cyclic for precise maneuvers. The aircraft's mechanical woes gnawed at her confidence. The hydraulic system, already compromised from the earlier gust, dripped warnings through the gauges. Pressure-dropping primary systems at 60%, she muttered, her long brown hair matted against her neck from the exertion. Ortiz leaned out, spotting the first threat's muzzle flashes sparking from ridge positions like malevolent stars. Incoming small arms at 11 o'clock. Tracer rounds streaked across the sky, green and red lances probing for their mark. Kane banked sharply, right the Black Hawk groaning in protest as she threaded through the valley's twists. Evasive, hold fire till we have visual. An RPG rocketed past its warhead, exploding against a boulder in a thunderclap of fragmented rock that peppered the fuselage. The impact jarred them, alarms blaring as the hydraulic failure accelerated. Losing assist controls, getting heavy. Kane gritted out her muscles, straining to compensate. The mini-climax built relentlessly. The system bled out, turning routine inputs into exhausting battles against aerodynamic forces. Cyclic lagged pedals required constant pressure, and the collective fought her every pull. Sweat soaked her uniform, her angular face set in determination, blue eyes flashing with the fire of survival. We push through, our brothers are counting on us. Ortiz returned fire in measured bursts, brass casings cascading like golden rain. The valley narrowed enemy fire, intensifying into a deadly hail, but Kane's skill shone, dodging, weaving her instincts honed by years of combat, keeping them aloft. As the compound silhouette sharpened ahead, the hydraulic gauge redlined a harbinger of the collapse to come, yet she flew on the eagle within, refusing to falter. The pressure mounted, not just mechanical, but deep within Kane's soul, as the valley's jaws closed around them. Enemy positions bracketed their path, mortars bracketing the air with explosive fury. Ma'am, hydraulics at critical. We're flying on fumes. Ortiz shouted, his voice tight with concern, turned to camaraderie. Kane's body ached from the constant wrestle, her slim waist sore from bracing long legs locked against the shuddering pedals. But it was the inner storm that threatened to ground her, the full flashback crashing over her, like a wave pulling her back to that fateful night 3 years ago. The memory unfolded vividly, James's Black Hawk spiraling under enemy fire flames, licking the engine as insurgents closed in. Liz, take the stick, get us out, he'd commanded, his blue eyes mirror to hers, filled with brotherly love and fierce protectiveness. Shrapnel had torn through the cabin, James shielding her with his body. "Fly away, you're the eagle, save the team." He'd gasped, blood staining his uniform, as he pushed her toward the controls. The plane crash scene replayed in agonizing detail, rotors failing the sickening lurch as they plummeted James's sacrifice, staying behind to draw fire, while she extracted the survivors. "Go, Liz, for Mom for us." His final words haunted her, the explosion that claimed him searing her heart like the desert sun. Frustration boiled within him. I weak. He died for me, and here I am, doubting again. The men say women can't handle this, the pain, the pressure. But James believed in me. Compassion flooded her, a tender ache for the brother who'd been her guiding star, the family bond that transcended death. Tears blurred her vision momentarily, her hand brushing the metal under her suit, but she blinked them away, drawing strength from the legacy. "No, I'm not weak. I'm his sister, Mom's daughter. Eagles fly through storms." The hydraulic system whined its final protest controls, seizing into full manual reversion, demanding every ounce of her physical and emotional resolve. "We're not turning back," she declared, her voice breaking with raw determination. Ortiz's response came softer now. "Lead the way, Raven." As the compound drew near, the near collapse forged her anew the wounds of loss not healed, but harnessed, propelling her toward the heart of the battle, with a compassion-fueled fire that no prejudice could extinguish. The compound erupted into view like a fortress from hell, its walls alive with enemy fire as Kane plunged the Black Hawk into the valley's maw. Alarms screamed in the cockpit, the hydraulic system failing utterly, transforming the controls into a brutal test of will. "Manual reversion full muscle now," Kane barked, her voice cutting through the din. Sweat poured down her smooth white skin, her angular face set in grim determination, blue eyes locked on the landing zone, a cramped courtyard, ringed by buildings, turned bunkers. The ambush hit like a thunderbolt. Insurgents swarmed the ridges, their muzzle flashes blooming in the dark like deadly fireworks. An RPG streaked toward them, its warhead whistling death. Kane's instincts fired. She yanked the cyclic, hard-dodging manual with raw strength, her firm body straining against the G-forces, full bust, heaving slim waist, twisting in the seat. The missile exploded harmlessly behind, showering the fuselage with debris. Ortiz swung the door gun to life, its barrel spitting fire in controlled bursts. "Targets at 3 o'clock, taking them down." Brass casings rained inside the cabin as his 7.62 rounds hammered enemy positions, tracers arcing like vengeful stars. The high drama unfolded in chaos. Another RPG whooshed past, close enough to singe the air, while small arms, fire pinged off the armor like hail on tin. Kane fought the bucking controls pedals, demanding constant pressure. Her long legs braced, hair matted with sweat under her helmet. "Hot LZ, brace for impact." The Black Hawk dropped like a stone skids, slamming into the courtyard with bone-jarring force. Dust billowed in a choking cloud, but Kane held steady, engines roaring defiance. Insurgents poured fire from windows and rooftops, bullets ricocheting wildly. Ortiz's gun thundered again, suppressing a nest of shooters, his shouts blending with the cacophony. "Clear the left flank, got 2 down." Kane's heart pounded, the adrenaline a fierce ally, but the drama peaked as a mortar round bracketed them, shaking the earth. Through it all, her skill shone, dodging, stabilizing, turning the wounded bird into a shield. The landing was no graceful perch, but a defiant crash into the heart of peril, the eagle landing amid wolves. Smoke cleared just enough for the rescue to unfold the courtyard, a kill zone of shattered stone and desperate shadows. "On the ground, move," Kane shouted, unstrapping and leaping out, her firm body coiled for action, blue eyes scanning for her teammates. Harlan and Cole emerged from behind a low wall, dragging Donovan's limp form, his tactical vest, dark with blood face ashen under the grime. "He's critical loss too much," Harlan yelled over the gunfire, his voice raw with exhaustion. Kane knelt beside Donovan, her hand steady, despite the chaos ripping open his vest to assess the wound. Shrapnel had torn through his abdomen, blood pooling in the dust. Pressure here stemmed the bleed. She commanded, applying field dressings with practiced urgency, her slim fingers working swiftly. Ortiz provided cover his gun, barking at encroaching shadows, but the emotional storm brewed as Harlan knelt too, his eyes meeting hers with a haunted look. Then came the unexpected twist, a revelation that struck like lightning. "Kane!" "Liz, I have to tell you!" Harlan gasped, his voice breaking amid the high drama. "Your brother James. He didn't just die in that crash. He died saving me. We were on that join-up 3 years ago. Insurgents hit us hard. He shoved me out, took the fire so I could extract the intel. Tell my sister she's the eagle fly for us both," he said. "I never had the guts to face you, until now." The words diverted everything. Kane's world spun the personal connection, a shock that pierced deeper than any bullet. James saved him. All this time, the loss wasn't random. It was sacrifice for this man, this brother-in-arms who'd once belittled her. Emotional shock flooded her tears, stinging her blue eyes as compassion warred with grief. "Why now?" she whispered, her voice trembling, hand still pressing Donovan's wound. Harlan's face crumpled. "Because you're here risking it all. He was right. You're stronger." The revelation forged an unbreakable bond, turning allies into family amid the peril. Kane stabilized Donovan with morphine from the kit, his breathing shallow, but steadying the twist, fueling her resolve. As bullets whizzed overhead, Ortiz shouted, "We gotta go, hostiles closing." The rescue complete, but the Heart's ordeal just beginning. Flames licked the starboard engine as they lifted off the Black Hawk, a pyre of mechanical agony protesting every demand. "Engine fire suppression systems shot," Kane yelled, frustration mounting as warning lights cascaded across the panel like angry constellations. The courtyard receded below an inferno of enemy fire, converging on their escape. RPGs streaked skyward, one grazing the tail rotor in a shower of sparks. Kane's muscles burned, flying muscle now raw power against the failing systems, her firm body pushed to limits. Slim waist, aching long legs, locked in battle with the pedals. Collective max climb, damn you! The aircraft lurched asymmetric thrust, yanking them sideways near death, whispering in every shudder. Ortiz fired desperately, his bursts suppressing pursuers, but the frustration peaked, oil pressure plummeted, vibrations threatening to tear them apart. Am I leading them to doom? James, help me. Education emerged in the pressure life skills forged. In fire, breathe deep, anticipate failure, channel fear into focus. Discipline. Ortiz, we adapt or die. The escape was a symphony of survival. Kane reduced power on the flaming engine, compensating with the port, her instincts educating through action. Manual flight means muscle and mind. Feel the bird, not force it. Flames spread smoke, filling the cabin, choking their breaths, but satisfaction built as they gained altitude, enemy tracers falling short. Donovan groaned from the stretcher, Harlan and Cole tending him, their faces etched with gratitude. You did it, Raven. We're clear. Ortiz called, his voice now full of awe. The bird held barely Kane's will, triumphing over the brink of catastrophe. As the base lights twinkled ahead, the ordeal's fire had refined her frustration, yielding to hard-won success, the eagle soaring through the blaze. The Black Hawk limped through the final stretch of a rocky night, its frame scarred and smoking, but triumphant, a testament to will over wreckage. Flames from the starboard engine had been suppressed just enough by the onboard system, though acrid smoke still lingered in the cabin, like a bitter reminder of the ordeal. Kane's muscles screamed from the muscle flight, her firm body exhausted, yet unbowed, full bust, rising with labored breaths, slim waist aching from the constant brace against the shuddering controls. Her long brown hair clung damply to her neck under the helmet, but her sharp blue eyes held a quiet glow of victory as forward operating base. Eagle Nest's lights twinkled ahead like welcoming stars. Eagle Nest, this is Raven Package. Secure all souls aboard. Request emergency landing on Pad Alpha. She radioed, her voice steady, despite the fatigue, etching every word. The landing was more controlled crash than graceful descent, skids hitting the pad with a jolt that rattled teeth and tested welds. Ground crews swarmed, immediately fire suppressants hissing as they doused lingering flames, medical teams rushing forward with stretchers. Kane powered down the engines, the rotors winding to a halt, like a sigh of relief from the battered machine. Ortiz unstrapped first his massive frame, squeezing through the cabin to help Harlan and Cole lift Donovan onto a gurney. The wounded sergeant's breathing was shallow, but stable, thanks to Kane's field aid amid the chaos. As the medics whisked him away, Ortiz turned to Kane, his gruff features softened by awe. He pulled her into a bear hug, his voice thick with emotion. "Ma'am, Raven, you pulled us through hell. I was wrong, dead wrong. You're the real deal, the eagle we needed." The embrace, rough yet heartfelt, bridged the chasm of prejudice, a moment of raw camaraderie that touched the soul, reminding all who witnessed it of the bonds forged in fire, the kind that seniors cherished from their own stories of service and sacrifice. Kane stepped out into the cool dawn air, her legs unsteady but her spirit soaring. The base buzzed with activity, operators emerging from bunkers to witness the miracle return. Colonel Hale strode forward, his weathered face breaking into a rare smile as he clasped her shoulder. "Kane, what you did out there, flying a dying bird through that gauntlet manual all the way, it's the stuff of legends. Donovan's headed to surgery. Docs say he'll pull through because of you. Harlan and Cole are singing your praises." His eyes met hers, conveying the depth of respect earned in the crucible. "I'm putting you in for the Distinguished Flying Cross, and effective immediately, I'm recommending promotion to Major. The 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment could use a pilot like you, Raven Reborn. No more hiding in comms. It's time the Army recognizes what you've always been." The words washed over her like a balm, acknowledging not just her skills, but the prejudices she'd shattered, the gender barriers that had clipped so many wings before hers. It was inspiration incarnate, a nod to the quiet warriors who'd paved the way, evoking the valor of Dawawudaw's heroines, like her mother. As the team gathered slaps on the back and murmured thanks filling the air, Kane felt family memories complete. James's letter burned in her pocket, his voice echoing, "Soar for us both." She touched the eagle tattoo on her back, its black wings no longer broken, but unfurled in full flight. Harlan approached his face, bandaged, but eyes clear. "Liz, about James. He saved me so I could live to see this. You're his legacy." The moment touched her heart profoundly, tears welling, as compassion for her brother's sacrifice mingled with pride in her own. In this acknowledgement, prejudices fell away, replaced by unbreakable bonds, the true reward of courage, inspiring all who heard the tale to believe in rising above. As the sun crested the horizon, painting the desert in golden hues, Kane stood taller, her blue eyes reflecting the dawn's promise. The mission had reclaimed her, proving that even in the face of doubt and loss, an eagle could soar. It was a story of gender triumph, a beacon for those who'd face their own battles, whispering that acknowledgement comes not from systems, but from the hearts we touch along the way. The compound faded into the desert haze behind them, a smoldering scar on the landscape. But the journey home was no victory lap. It was a gauntlet of fire and fury. Kane pulled collective with every ounce of her remaining strength, the Black Hawk clawing for altitude, amid the chaos of pursuit. Enemy tracers lit the night like vengeful comets, green streaks crisscrossing their path as insurgent vehicles roared in chase below. "Hostiles on our 6 trucks with mounted guns!" Ortiz bellowed from his position, swinging the door gun to unleash a hail of suppressing fire. The aircraft shuddered under impacts, bullets pinging off the armor like angry hornets. Kane's firm body tensed in the seat. Slim waist braced against the vibrations, long legs locked on the pedals as she banked, evasively dodging a fresh barrage. Sweat stung her blue eyes, but she blinked it away, her angular face a mask of focused resolve. Then the engine fire reignited with a vengeance, orange flames, licking the housing like a dragon's breath. "Starboard's ablaze again. Temperature redlining." She shouted alarms, wailing in symphony with the peril. The port engine coughed, oil pressure plummeting as mechanical fatigue set in the chase, turning the escape into a desperate race against disintegration. An RPG streaked upward, exploding nearby in a thunderclap that rocked them sideways, fragments rattling the fuselage. Frustration mounted. Not now. Not after all this, as the controls grew heavier, the failing hydraulics demanding superhuman effort. Kane's muscles burned her full bust, heaving with exertion, but she drew on deep reserves, channeling the discipline that had carried her through countless trials. "Breathe through it. Steady inhales control the panic," she muttered, echoing the life skills James had taught her during their grueling training sessions. "Inhale for 4, whole exhale." The rhythm steadied her, turning fear into fuel. The mini-climax peaked as the engine fire spread, threatening the transmission. "We're losing power. Mayday, Eagle Nest." Ortiz fired relentlessly his bursts, buying precious seconds, but the pursuers closed their lights, piercing the dark like predator eyes. Kane reduced throttle on the flaming side, compensating with asymmetric thrust, her instincts guiding the wounded bird through evasive rolls. "Feel the machine adapt or fall," she coached herself, the breathing discipline anchoring her amid the storm. A final RPG grazed the tail, spinning them wildly, but Kane's iron will prevailed. She stabilized, gaining distance as the enemies faltered in the rough terrain. "They're breaking off, we shook 'em," Ortiz exclaimed, relief cracking his voice. The fire sputtered under emergency measures, the chopper holding together by sheer tenacity. As the base loomed closer, Kane felt the first wave of exhaustion, but also triumph, the road back forged in fire, proving her unbreakable spirit. Yet as the physical threats receded, the emotional torrent surged, the radio crackling with a voice that pierced Kane's heart like a long-lost echo. "Raven, this is Eagle Nest Patch, through from home. Your mother's on the line." The word stunned her family humanism, flooding the cabin amid the smoke and sweat. Ortiz glanced back, his gruff demeanor softening. "Take it, ma'am, you earned this." Kane keyed the mic, her voice trembling slightly. "Mom, is that you?" The connection hissed with static, but her mother's voice came through warm and weathered, like the old quilts from childhood, evoking the compassion of generational bonds that seniors held dear. "Lizzie, my girl, we heard about the mission. The news travels fast in veteran circles. You're just like your brother, brave, unyielding. James would be so proud. He always said you were the stronger one, the eagle who could weather any storm." Tears welled in Kane's blue eyes, the letter from James burning in her pocket as memories completed their circle. Flashbacks washed over her family dinners, where Mom shared white tales of ferrying planes through enemy skies, Dad's quiet pride in his pilot children, James's laughter blending with hers over shared dreams. Mom, I almost didn't make it. The doubts, the loss, it nearly grounded me. Her mother's response was pure humanism, a balm for the soul. But you flew, darling, like I did back then, proving the naysayers wrong. Women like us, we carry the weight, but we soar. James is watching, smiling. Come home safe. The words touched Kane's compassion deeply, affirming the family legacy that had sustained her through prejudice and pain. Harlan from the back added softly, "She's right, Liz. You saved us all." Even Ortiz nodded the journey's trials, knitting them into a found family. As the base grew near, the mother's letter, spoken across the miles, humanized the heroism, reminding Kane that strength wasn't solitary, but woven from love and loss. It was the road back, not just to safety, but to wholeness, inspiring her to embrace the eagle within fully. The dawn light bathed forward operating base. Eagle nest in a golden hue, as the Blackhawk's rotors wound down the battered machine, finally at rest amid a swarm of ground crews and medics. Kane stepped out, her legs unsteady from the grueling flight, but her spirit ignited by the mother's words, still echoing in her heart. Donovan was whisked away to surgery, his faint thanks a whisper of gratitude, while Harlan and Cole clapped her on the back, their faces etched with relief. Ortiz lingered, his gruff nod, a silent vow of loyalty forged in fire. But as the team debriefed under Hale's watchful eye, a nagging mystery clawed at Kane. The Russian voices on the radio during the chase, clipped and commanding, directing the insurgents with unnatural precision. Not locals, she thought, her sharp blue eyes narrowing. Something's off. The twist unfolded like a shadow uncoiling in the light. As Kane headed to the comms tent to log the mission data, a figure emerged from the operations center, a man in civilian gear, his face half hidden under a cap, conferring with base security. Her pulse quickened. The voice from the radio matched the timbre now drifting her way. She froze, recognition slamming into her like a rotor blade. Captain Viktor Sokolov, her former teammate from a joint op years ago, the one who'd vanished after James's crash, rumored to have sold intel to the highest bidder. The betrayer, she realized the pieces snapping together. The Russian advisor wasn't just aiding insurgents, he was the architect, his mystery presence on the radio, a thread tying back to her brother's death. Sokolov had been there that night, coordinating from the shadows his defection, the hidden knife that doomed James. Confrontation ignited in a flash. Kane strode forward, her firm body tensing, slim waist, braced long legs carrying her with purposeful grace as she intercepted him near the perimeter. "Victor." She called, her voice steel wrapped in ice. He turned, his eyes widening in feigned surprise, but the flicker of guilt betrayed him. "Elizabeth." Raven. What a coincidence. The air crackled with tension, base personnel pausing as the drama unfolded. "No coincidence you were on that radio directing the ambush. You sold out James, didn't you?" "For what Russian gold?" Sokolov's smirk faded his hand, inching toward a concealed device, a jammer she realized meant to disrupt base comms for a larger strike. Using her electronic skills, honed in comms duty, Kane lunged, disarming him with a swift takedown, her full bust heaving with effort, blue eyes blazing. "Not today," she growled, hacking the device with a portable console from her kit. Codes flew under her fingers, overriding his plot to call in reinforcements. Alarms blared as security swarmed Sokolov, subdued in cuffs. His scheme thwarted a network of betrayal exposed, saving the base from imminent attack. The mystery resolved in a rush of justice, Kane's confrontation, a cathartic purge of the past's shadows. Victory swelled in the aftermath, the base alive with the buzz of revelation. Hale convened an emergency briefing Sokolov's capture, unveiling a web of espionage that had plagued ops for months. Kane's instincts saved us all again. Hale declared, his voice booming with authority. But the true confrontation came against the system itself, the prejudices that had grounded her, the biases that dismissed women like her as lesser. As brass from higher command arrived via chopper, drawn by the intel windfall, Kane stood tall, her angular face resolute. "Sir, this wasn't just luck," she addressed the gathered officers, her blue eyes meeting each gaze. "I've been sidelined because of outdated notions women can't handle the heat, the loss. But I flew through it manual and under fire because strength isn't gendered. It's forged in the heart." The room fell silent, then erupted in nods of agreement. Hale stepped forward. "You're right, Major Kane. Promotion effective immediately, and assignment to the 160th. No more hiding your wings." The words were satisfaction incarnate, a rebirth that washed over her like dawn's first light. She touched her eagle tattoo, its black wings, now soaring high in her mind's eye, no longer broken, but eternal. The prejudices confronted and dismantled her victory, echoed the triumphs of her mother and brother, inspiring the team around her. Harlan clasped her hand. James would be proud. Ortiz saluted. "Lead the way, Major." In that moment, compassion for her journey mingled with pride, the system's acknowledgement a hard-won balm. As the sun rose fully, Kane felt whole. The eagle reborn, her satisfaction a beacon for all who'd been held back, proving that true victory lies in soaring beyond the chains. The sun climbed higher over forward operating base. Eagle Nest, casting long shadows that seemed to retreat before the dawn of a new day. Kane stood amid the bustling aftermath, her uniform tattered and smoke-stained, but her posture unyielding, a living emblem of resilience. The capture of Sokolov had unraveled a tangled web of betrayal, his confessions under interrogation, exposing a network that reached far beyond the desert sands. Higher command buzzed with activity choppers, ferrying in investigators, the base transformed from outpost to hub of justice. Yet for Kane, the true elixir wasn't in the tactical victories or the commendations piling up. It was in the profound shift within the reclamation of her wings after years of being grounded by doubt and loss. As the team gathered in the command center for a final debrief, Hale turned the floor to her, his voice carrying the weight of hard-earned respect. "Major Kane, you've not only saved lives, you've exposed a threat that could have cost us dearly. Share with us what this means." Kane stepped forward, her sharp blue eyes sweeping the room, meeting each gaze with quiet authority. Her firm body still aching from the flight. Slim waist, steady long legs planted, firmly radiated a strength that silenced the skeptics. She touched the eagle tattoo on her back, its black wings now a symbol of soaring, high, unbroken, and eternal. "Gentlemen, brothers," she began, her voice warm yet resolute, evoking the heartfelt stories shared around family tables, the kind that seniors pass down to remind the young of enduring valor. "Tonight we flew through prejudices that have clipped wings for too long. Women are eagles, flying through storms of doubt and dismissal, just as my mother did in World War II. She ferried bombers across enemy skies when the world said women belonged at home, proving that courage knows no gender. Like her, I've faced the whispers, the sweethearts, and sidelining, but we soar anyway because the mission demands it." The room hung on her words, the message resonating like a timeless anthem of empowerment. Harlan nodded, his bandaged face softening. "You showed us, Major." James would say the same. Ortiz, once the voice of doubt, added gruffly, "Damn right. No more blind spots were better for it. Kane continued her tone, touching the compassion in every heart. This isn't just about one flight or one betrayal. It's about acknowledging that strength comes from the soul, from family legacies, like my brother's sacrifice, from mothers who blazed trails in Wine Tude's shadows. We honor them by rising above, flying through prejudices that divide us, uniting as eagles in the same sky. The elixir she brought back wasn't a medal or promotion. It was this truth, a balm for the wounds of inequality, inspiring the team to see beyond old barriers. Evoking the history of those brave women pilots, the Wasps, who faced scorn yet delivered victory. Kane's story wove personal triumph into the fabric of American valor, reminding all of the quiet heroes who'd paved the way. As the debrief wrapped, Kane felt the resonance deep within, a quote from her mother's old letters, rising like a mantra. Courage is not without fear, but flying even with broken wings. It encapsulated her journey from the ashes of loss to the heights of rebirth, a wisdom that echoed the experiences of veterans who'd known fear, yet pressed on. The base settled into a reflective hush, the elixir spreading conversations, buzzing about change, prejudices, challenged, and the unbreakable spirit of those who serve. In quiet moments later, Kane shared the quote with Vargas, the elder doctor smiling knowingly. "Your mother would be proud, child. You've given us all wings." And so as the sun fully claimed the sky, Kane's return completed the circle, not just home to the base, but to herself, carrying an elixir of inspiration for generations. If this tale of an eagle's flight touches your heart, dear listener, subscribe and share it far and wide. Inspire those around you. Remind them that, like Raven, you too can soar high no matter the storms.